Commander Tay stood on the bridge of the Council ship as it entered Earth's orbit. The blue-green planet rotated slowly below, unaware of the visitors watching from above. None of the humans' primitive detection systems had noticed their arrival. The Council had made sure of that. "What a beautiful world," said Officer Yuna, looking at the oceans and clouds. "Hard to believe such a fierce species evolved here." "Beauty often hides danger," Tay replied. He had studied the reports for months. Humans were a puzzle to the Galactic Council. They had art, music, and science, yet their history was filled with endless wars. Even now, they fought each other over land, resources, and beliefs. Yuna checked her data screen. Their technology is advancing quickly. Much faster than expected. At this rate, they'll achieve deep space travel within 50 years. Tay nodded grimly. And they'll bring their wars to the stars. The Council cannot allow that. The decision to quarantine Earth had not been easy. Some Council members argued for more time to study humans. Others wanted no contact at all. In the end, they chose a middle path: make contact, but contain the humans to their solar system until they proved themselves safe. "Landing team, prepare for descent," Tay ordered. "Remember the protocols. No weapons. No threats. We are diplomats, not conquerors." On Earth, Dr. Han Juno waited nervously at the agreed meeting point. As Earth's leading xenobiologist, he had been chosen to represent humanity at this historic moment. Around him, military forces from 7 nations stood guard, hidden from view but ready to act if needed. "They're late," whispered his assistant, looking at the empty field. "They're aliens," Han replied with a small smile. "Maybe they don't use Earth time." A moment later, the air shimmered. A silver craft appeared, hovering silently above the grass. It was smooth, with no visible engines or windows. Han felt his heart race. After decades of wondering if humans were alone in the universe, he was about to get his answer. The craft landed softly. A door opened in its side, and 3 figures stepped out. They walked on 2 legs like humans, but their all similarity ended. Their skin was pale blue, their eyes large and deep. They wore simple white clothing with no markings or decorations. Han stepped forward. "On behalf of Earth, I welcome you." The tallest alien bowed slightly. "I am Tay, commander of the Galactic Council survey ship Harmony. We come in peace." The first meetings went well. The aliens brought gifts, medical knowledge that could cure several human diseases, clean energy technology, and star maps showing nearby systems. Humans shared their culture, food, and history. For 3 days, it seemed the beginning of a wonderful partnership. Then came the announcement. "The Council has decided," Tay told the gathered world leaders on the 4th day. "Earth will be placed under quarantine." The room erupted in angry shouts and questions. Han watched in silence, his earlier joy turning to dread. "Please understand," Yuna explained when the noise died down. "This is not punishment. It is protection, for you and for others." She showed videos of Council worlds. Beautiful cities without walls or weapons. Species living together in harmony. Planets where war was just a distant memory. "Your kind is unique," Tay said. "You build wonders with one hand and weapons with the other. You write poetry about peace while preparing for war. The Council fears what might happen if your warrior instincts spread beyond this solar system." "So we're prisoners?" asked the American president. "No. Students," Tay corrected. "You will learn from us. We will share knowledge, but not the means to leave your system. A barrier will be established. In time, perhaps a century or 2, when humans have proven themselves peaceful, the quarantine will be lifted." Han looked at the aliens with new eyes. Their gentle manner now seemed condescending, their gifts a small price for humanity's freedom. "Who gave you the right to judge us?" he asked quietly. Tay turned to him with something like sadness in his large eyes. "No one. But the Council protects over 300 peaceful species. We cannot risk their safety." That night, Han watched from his office window as the alien ship departed. Soon more would come: diplomats, teachers, observers. Earth would get amazing new technology and knowledge of the universe. But humans would be confined to their small corner of space, labeled too dangerous for free travel among the stars. They think we're savages, his assistant said bitterly. Han shook his head. No. They think we're children who play with fire. He looked up at the stars, wondering about the barrier that would soon surround them. Now we must decide: do we prove them right or prove them wrong? The quarantine barrier shimmered like a giant soap bubble around the entire solar system. From Earth, it was invisible, but space telescopes could detect its faint glow at the edge of Pluto's orbit. 6 months had passed since first contact, and humans were still adjusting to their new reality. Hyun stood at the window of the alien embassy in Seoul, watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink. As a junior diplomat, he had been chosen to help the visitors understand human culture. Today he would be meeting with Ji, a council xenobiologist interested in human history. Beautiful, isn't it? Hyun said as Ji approached the window. The alien's tall, slender form moved gracefully across the room. Yes, Ji agreed. Your world has much beauty. My home planet has 3 suns. We rarely see such dramatic light changes. Ji's skin had a blue-gray tint that seemed to shift in different lighting. His large eyes blinked slowly as he studied the city skyline. I've arranged our visit to the Human History Museum, Hyun said. Though I should warn you, much of our history isn't pleasant. That's precisely what interests me, Ji replied. At the museum, they walked through halls showing human civilization's rise. Ji stopped longest at the war exhibits, mandibles clicking softly in what Hyun had learned was an expression of distress. Over 15,000 wars in your recorded history, Ji noted. How has your species survived such self-destruction? The same reason we create art and music and explore space, Hyun replied. We're stubborn. Ji's head tilted. Stubborn? We don't give up easily. Not on fighting, but not on living either. They paused before a display showing the first lunar landing and the International Space Station. Your species advanced from primitive flight to space travel in less than 70 years, Ji observed. The Council finds this concerning. Because we're dangerous? Because you're unpredictable. Most species take centuries to develop such technologies. They grow wisdom alongside knowledge. As they left the museum, they passed a group of schoolchildren who stared openly at Ji. One small boy waved. Ji waved back, his long fingers moving awkwardly to mimic the human gesture. They adapt so quickly, Ji said softly. You're young especially. Back at the embassy, Hyun was not permitted in the communications room where Ji sent his daily reports to the council. He knew these reports would determine Earth's future, whether the quarantine would be strengthened or eventually lifted. That evening, Hyun received an unexpected invitation to join Ji for dinner. The embassy's dining hall had been modified to accommodate both species' needs. Ji ate strange blue fruits that smelled like cinnamon. I've been studying your entertainment, Ji said. Your films, games, books. So many feature violence and conflict. Hyun nodded. We find struggle compelling. Overcoming challenges. But why must the challenges involve fighting? The hero always defeats enemies through force or cunning. Not always, Hyun countered. He took out his tablet and showed Ji clips from different movies: scientists solving problems, doctors saving lives, artists creating beauty. Ji watched with interest. These are not as popular as your war films, though. No, Hyun admitted. But they exist. We contain multitudes. Later that week, Hyun learned that the council was debating strengthening the quarantine. Some alien species were frightened by how quickly humans were adapting council technologies. Earth scientists had already improved several of the medical devices given as gifts, making them more efficient. They fear us, Hyun said to his supervisor. With reason, the older diplomat replied. We've been fighting since we climbed down from the trees. What would we do among peaceful worlds if we can't even find peace on our own planet? That night, Hyun couldn't sleep. From his apartment window, he looked up at stars now known to host worlds filled with life. Worlds humans were forbidden to visit. The barrier contained them physically, but it was doing something else too. It was challenging humanity to prove itself worthy of the galaxy. At the embassy the next morning, G was waiting with news. The council has agreed to expand cultural exchange, the alien announced. More of my kind will come to study humans. And a few selected humans will be permitted to visit our nearest outpost. That's progress, Hyun said, trying to hide his excitement. Small steps, G agreed. My personal report included our museum visit and our conversations. I told them humans are complex, not simply violent. You seek to understand yourselves. And what did they say to that? They said understanding is the beginning of change. G's eyes seemed to smile, though his face couldn't form the expression. The quarantine remains, but not forever. Not if you continue to show us your better nature. Captain Day stood on the bridge of the research vessel Horizon, watching the stars. His ship hovered near the edge of the quarantine barrier, collecting data on cosmic radiation. After 2 years of alien contact, humans had been granted limited research rights near the boundary. It was a small freedom, but important. Beautiful out there, isn't it? He said to Officer Sue, who monitored the ship's sensors. Yes, sir, she replied. Hard not to wonder what's beyond our reach. The Horizon was officially unarmed, as required by council regulations. However, Captain Day had insisted on certain safety features that the council inspectors hadn't recognized as defensive systems. Just precautions, he told himself. Captain, Sue said suddenly, her voice tense. I'm detecting 3 vessels approaching from beyond the barrier. Day moved quickly to her station. Council ships? No, sir. They don't match any council designs in our database. The captain frowned. Contact them. They're not responding to hails. Sue looked up, her face pale. Sir, they've crossed the boundary. They're inside the quarantine zone. Alert the crew. Activate safety protocols, Day ordered. And keep trying to contact them. The Horizon's hidden defenses powered up silently. Around the ship, crew members moved to secure positions. They had drilled for this, though none had expected it to actually happen. The approaching ships were smaller than the Horizon but moved with aggressive purpose. When they came within visual range, Day could see their hulls were marked with strange red symbols. Pirates, said Chief Engineer Min, who had joined them on the bridge. I've seen reports about them from Council data. They raid outlying systems. What would they want with us? Sue asked. We're just scientists. Human technology is unique, Min replied. Different from Council standards. Probably valuable on some markets. The first blast hit the Horizon before Day could respond. The ship shuddered, but its shields, disguised as radiation protection, held. Return fire, Day ordered. Target their engines only. The pirates clearly hadn't expected resistance. Their attack pattern showed they thought they were approaching an unarmed research vessel. The Horizon's defensive lasers caught the lead ship by surprise, damaging one of its engines. They're circling for another pass, Sue reported. All crew to battle stations, Day commanded. This is not a drill. The pirate ships attacked from different angles. One blast hit the Horizon's communications array, cutting off their ability to call for help. The research vessel fought back, its hidden weapons finally revealed. They're boarding us. Min shouted as alerts flashed across his screen. Hull breach in Section 4. Day grabbed the ship's intercom. Security teams to Section 4. Prepare for boarders. What happened next would later be described in Council reports with a mixture of horror and reluctant admiration. The pirates, a species with tough exoskeletons and 4 arms, were physically stronger than humans. But they had never encountered humans in combat before. Humans had evolved on a high-gravity world with predators and harsh conditions. Their bodies were built for endurance, and their minds for problem-solving under pressure. Most importantly, they had thousands of years of combat experience encoded in their training and instincts. The security team met the boarders in the narrow corridor of Section 4. The fight was brief and decisive. Using teamwork and improvised weapons, the humans quickly overwhelmed the pirates, capturing 3 alive. On the bridge, Day managed to disable a second pirate ship. The third fled, disappearing beyond the quarantine barrier. Damage report, Day called out when the fighting was over. Minimal structural damage, Min replied. For crew injured, none critically. The pirates? 2 dead, 3 captured. We've secured them in the cargo hold. Day nodded grimly. Get our communications back online. The council needs to know what happened here. 3 hours later, council enforcement vessels arrived, their sleek shapes surrounding the horizon and the disabled pirate ships. Commander Q of the council security force came aboard, his tall form and green-tinted skin marking him as a different species than the diplomats humans usually dealt with. You captured them? Q asked, looking at the secured pirates with disbelief. An unarmed research vessel captured armed raiders? We had some defensive capabilities, Day admitted. For emergencies. Q studied the human captain. You disabled 2 ships and captured 3 pirates alive. With minimal casualties. There was something new in the alien's voice, not just surprise, but wariness. We defended ourselves, Day said simply. Later, as the council ships prepared to depart with the pirates and their vessels, Commander Q approached Day one last time. The council will be concerned by this incident, he said carefully. Because we broke the rules about weapons? Because you proved exceptionally effective in combat. Q's large eyes blinked slowly. Some will see this as confirmation that humans are too dangerous to join galactic society. We only fought because we were attacked, Day protested. I know, Q replied. That fact might be the only thing that prevents the council from strengthening your quarantine. He looked around at the human crew. You should prepare your government. There will be debates about this incident. As the council ships departed with their prisoners, Day looked out at the stars beyond the barrier. The quarantine that had seemed like a path toward eventual acceptance now felt more like a permanent prison. All because humans had done what came naturally. They had fought back in WONDI in the quiet town of Millbrook. A sense of unease had been growing. Strange occurrences had begun to whisper through the streets, catching the attention of Sarah Thompson, a local journalist with a keen eye for unusual stories. It started with small things. Residents reported peculiar electrical disturbances, streetlights flickering at odd hours, cell phones dying unexpectedly, and electronic devices behaving erratically. At first, people dismissed these as simple technical glitches, but soon the incidents became too frequent to ignore. Mark Rodriguez, the town's chief of police, first noticed something truly unusual when multiple surveillance cameras around the town's perimeter began to malfunction simultaneously. The footage would become distorted, showing strange shadowy figures that seemed to move in ways that defied normal physics. Scientists from a nearby research facility were called in to investigate. Dr. Elena Kovacs, a brilliant physicist, brought her team to Millbrook. They set up complex monitoring equipment and began collecting data. What they discovered was beyond anything they could have imagined. The town appeared to be experiencing some kind of external interference. Electromagnetic readings showed patterns that didn't match any known natural phenomenon. Invisible waves seemed to pulse through the area, creating invisible ripples in the fabric of reality itself. Local farmers were the first to report more tangible changes. Crops began to grow in impossible ways, corn stalks twisted into strange geometric shapes, and plants seemed to react to something unseen. Animals became increasingly agitated, with local pets refusing to go outside and wild animals behaving erratically. As weeks passed, the town became divided. Some residents believed something supernatural was happening, while others sought scientific explanations. Sarah Thompson began documenting everything, her notebook filling with interviews and observations that seemed to point to something extraordinary. The breakthrough came one quiet Tuesday morning. A massive energy surge swept through the town, causing every electronic device to momentarily go dark. When power returned, something had changed. People reported seeing brief, strange glimpses of something just beyond normal perception, shapes that didn't quite look human, movements that seemed to bend the rules of space and time. Dr. Kovacs and her team worked tirelessly. They discovered that Millbrook was situated on a unique geographical point where multiple energy lines converged. Something was using this location as a potential entry point, but from where, no one could definitively say. Mark Rodriguez found himself protecting a town that didn't fully understand the threat it faced. He coordinated with local authorities and brought in additional resources, knowing something significant was about to happen. The community began to change. People became more watchful, more concerned. Children were kept indoors, and a nervous tension spread through the town like a thick fog. Neighbors started to look at each other differently, wondering who might know more about the strange events. Sarah continued her investigation, connecting dots that others missed. She began to suspect that this was more than just a local phenomenon. Something was approaching, something that existed just beyond the edge of human understanding. As summer turned to autumn, the disturbances increased. The boundary between what was known and unknown seemed to grow thinner. Millbrook stood on the edge of a discovery that could change everything, a potential first contact with something completely alien to human experience. The town waited, watched, and wondered. Something was coming. Something that would challenge everything they knew about reality itself. Dr. Kovacs knew they were close to understanding. Mark Rodriguez prepared for potential protection. Sarah Thompson prepared to tell a story that might be bigger than any news report in human history. And in the quiet spaces between moments, something watched. Something waited. Something was preparing to make its presence known. Millbrook had become ground zero for a mystery that would soon explode into something far beyond a simple small-town incident. The external threat was real, and it was getting closer with each passing moment. No one knew exactly what was coming. But everyone could feel that something was about to change forever. In a world where shadows danced with secrets, a young girl named Maya discovered her true calling. She wasn't an ordinary teenager, she was a guardian, chosen to protect something far more important than anyone could imagine. The night was cold and silent when Maya first learned about her extraordinary destiny. Her grandmother, a woman with piercing eyes and hands that seemed to hold ancient wisdom, revealed the truth. Their family had been guardians for generations, protecting a hidden energy that maintained balance between the human world and a realm just beyond perception. Maya's initial reaction was disbelief. How could she, a simple student who struggled with math and spent most of her time daydreaming, be responsible for something so significant? But her grandmother's serious expression told her this was no joke. The training began immediately. Her grandmother taught her about sensing energy, understanding subtle vibrations that normal people couldn't detect. Maya learned to feel the world differently, not just with her eyes and ears, but with an inner sense that grew stronger each day. Her first real test came unexpectedly. During a quiet evening walk near the old forest at the edge of town, Maya felt a strange disturbance. The air became heavy, and the usual forest sounds disappeared. Something was wrong. A dark, swirling energy began to form between the trees. Maya remembered her grandmother's instructions: stay calm, focus, and trust her instincts. She placed her hands forward, concentrating on creating a protective barrier. The energy around her started to shimmer, creating an invisible shield. The dark force tried to push through, testing her strength. Maya could feel its intention to break through and cause chaos. But she stood firm, her inner power growing stronger with each passing moment. She wasn't fighting with physical strength, but with something much more powerful: pure intention and protective energy. Hours seemed to pass, though it was probably only minutes. The dark energy finally retreated, unable to break through her defense. Maya was exhausted but victorious. She realized that being a guardian wasn't about being a superhero, but about maintaining balance and protecting something precious. Her grandmother was waiting when she returned home. No words were spoken, but the pride in her eyes was clear. Maya had passed her first real test, proving she was worthy of her family's ancient responsibility. As days turned into weeks, Maya continued her training. She learned that guardians weren't about fighting monsters, but about understanding and redirecting energy. Sometimes protection meant being quiet, sometimes it meant being bold, but always it required understanding and wisdom. The town around her continued its normal routine, never knowing how close they had been to potential disruption. People walked their dogs, children played in parks, and life moved forward, all because someone was watching, protecting. Maya understood now that her role wasn't glamorous or exciting in the way movies portrayed heroic battles. It was subtle, quiet work that required constant attention and deep respect for the unseen forces that move through the world. Her classmates saw her as just another teenager. They didn't know that beneath her ordinary appearance, she carried an extraordinary responsibility. She was a guardian, chosen to maintain a delicate balance between what people could see and what remained hidden. As the seasons changed and Maya grew stronger, she realized her journey was just beginning. Each day would bring new challenges, new energies to understand and protect. And she was ready, not because she was fearless, but because she was committed to her unexpected destiny. The forest remained her greatest teacher. Its silent wisdom spoke to her in ways no human instructor ever could. Here, among ancient trees and hidden pathways, Maya learned that true power wasn't about force, but about understanding, patience, and respect. Her grandmother's words echoed in her mind: guardians are not monsters hunting other monsters. They are protectors, keeping the delicate balance of energies that most people never see or understand. And so Maya continued her quiet, important work, a teenager with a secret, a guardian of unseen worlds, watching over a reality that existed just beyond ordinary perception.